Hey everybody, this is Brittany here with Surfing Waves of Light, and today I am going to be talking to you all about hurricanes, cycles, and spirals. We are in a huge transition right now from 3D to 5D. We're really integrating and embodying our new lives, and so as part of that transition, we are all going to be experiencing spirals of energy. There has been a lot of intense energy this summer, this fall. And so right now, here in New Jersey, we have a hurricane swell that is on our coast today. And we're not really going to be getting too much of the weather besides the wind, but I channeled this message actually in August when Hurricane Erin came through, and I never had the energy to post it, but I recorded it and I wrote it down. And so today I'm going to be talking about hurricanes, cycles, spirals, and moving through these intense storms, these waves of energy, because right now the ground might feel shaky because our foundations are being shifted for our highest good, and it may result in feeling anxious, it may result in feeling ungrounded, it may result in feeling tiredness. There's a plethora of feelings that are in the collective right now, on top of a lot of deep feelings. I'll be making another video about that soon. But so I wanted to share what the guide said to me in August as I was going through transition, and just knowing that these spirals are going to continue to happen. So knowing how to navigate these storms, these spirals of energy, are really going to be important as we continue moving through this journey. What's been going on is that over the past few years, if you've been in the consciousness realm, you've been setting a lot of big intentions for better lives, different realities, and more peace. But what's happened is the foundations for those intentions has not been solid, right? So we've come from this 3D realm where we are very much trained into doing things from a non-loving perspective. And now we're setting all these intentions to be in love. And so the foundations have to be shifted. And so what happens to uproot a strong foundation that's made out of not love is that we need to have these storms, these cycles of energy coming through, both literally and energetically. So you can expect that more high frequency energies are going to be coming our way. There may be a little bit of downtime, but I don't think we're ever going to be going back deep as down as we were before. So the guides also said you don't need to be afraid of these storms, and fear is going to be an important factor as we move through this time. They're saying just trust the process, even if fear arises, and just know that you can think of the weather, the literal weather when you have a hurricane off the coast, or the energetic weather, as a loving expression of the Creator fulfilling our wishes. So hurricane spirals, it's a big part of healing. Just wanted to show this image. You can think of this is a image of a technique we do in Healing Touch called the spiral method. Highly recommend if you ever come see me for a session or online, we can do this. It's really, really cool. You actually open up the field using spiral, and then you work in the field because this field's expanded with the spiral, and then you close the field back down when you're done the session. But this is also a great image for hurricanes, right? Hurricanes are spirals. And so what spirals do, they go all in the periphery, closer and closer, all the way to the center. They touch every level of the field on a quantum and physical level. So spirals are really important in this reality. They show up in nature all the time. And if we can know how to navigate these spirals, that is how we ascend up and up and up into creating these beautiful lives that we love, that we just get to a point where we're at oneness, where we have the atonement, the at oneness, because our whole life is a present moment. And so that's been my guidance. So navigating the storm. So when Erin was here, we were projected to get 15 to 20 foot surf. I think today we have like 8 to 10 foot surf is supposedly on the rise, and that hurricane was a category 5. I'm not sure what this one is, but basically this heavy energy is going to help us to gain clarity on how to proceed. So right now what they're saying is if you're trying to make any big decisions for the future, the guidance right now is to wait until the storm passes to see how everything plays out, right? So as you're moving through this time, just allow the storm to pass and then see how things play out. Also, as the storm builds, as these cycles build, observe how your own energy field reacts. Notice how everything intensifies before the peak. The storm here is going to peak either tonight or tomorrow, I believe. And after that, the wind and the waves will calm down. And right now, things are really big and messy, so it's not perfect for surfing, but it's a good time to be aware of how you're feeling with all these energies in the mix. So even if you're not on the Jersey Shore, a lot of people are feeling these energies, even these heavy wind days. And so it's interesting because surfers are naturally inclined to watch storms, because we know that as a storm comes through, maybe a few days before the storm, there could be a day where we're getting the energy from the storm without getting the wind and the weather and all that stuff, which creates the pulsations. The energy is coming through where we can ride those waves. But then we know once it gets too close and the weather comes, that's not a good time to surf, right? That's a good time to rest, relax, do some self-reflection, hydrate, and get prepared, because once the storm moves past, the spiral moves past, then the back end of it will leave these could be beautiful sunny days with perfect waves. You get all the energy, but instead of it being all messy, it's clean, it's pulsing, it's rideable. And so just like with surfing and following storms and the spirals for surfing, we can do this also in our lives, knowing when things are really heightened, it's a time to come inside, it's a time to relax, it's a time to be at peace. And then once it passes and you see what's happened through all the upheaval, there's clarity that comes on the other side, and then good waves to ride energetically and physically. So I read this book this summer called The Island of the Blue Dolphins, and it's a children's book about a Native American girl who was left alone on an island for 20 years. And one of the coolest things about that book was that this woman had to be deeply aware of the weather because it totally impacted her. She didn't have a forecast, and she had to make practical decisions to secure her belongings before the storms. So this book really reminded me that we need to come back to the basics right now. Our world is so complex, technological. There are so many spaces. You go onto Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, websites. These are all portals. When you go on your phone is a major portal, and you can tune into any energy you want. And sometimes the energies are coming at you, right? There's like these entities of energy that are really pulsed at us. And so something that you can take that energy and time and focus away from these portals into the technological world, which is fine and to be used in moderation, but you can focus them on the weather. And being aware of the weather is a really powerful way to interact with nature. As a surfer, we're always very in tune with the weather. Half the time, I don't even check what the waves are doing. My main concern is the wind, because if the wind's bad, then it doesn't matter how good the waves are. It's going to be very hard to surf. So just having read that book, and she just lived this very natural life. You know, she foraged what was available in the spring and the fall and the summer, and then she saved it for the winter, and she lived in like a not too cold of a place, but there's just all these gifts around us all the time. But when we're so busy, when we're so in our own lives and our problems, we don't get to witness them. And so being aware of the weather, watching a storm come in, get here, and move out, it's really just so cool to be present to that. And it's something I personally love. I've always loved when a storm's coming. There's this excitement in the air. There's this feeling. It can be anxiety, how bad is it going to be, but it's also excitement of like, okay, things are going to change. Or I feel like a lot of times in storms too, we'll get to this moment where maybe like there's a flooding or there's something happening, and then a bunch of people have to stay in the same house, or you know, there's like kind of like weird situations that the universe can create through these storms. And I think these spirals also are a reflection of the heightened karmic energy that's around right now. And so as these spirals come through, if there's any karma that needs to get shaken loose, that's what these high frequency energy waves do. They come through and they do that. And I recently had some karma in the last storm. I hurt my leg pretty bad. I mean, it's fine, but I was crying on a pretty big wave with my longboard, and I have pretty thick rails, and there was a moment where my longboard and my leg became one, the at-one-ment, in the peak of a karmic moment when I was not grounded and centered and tried to take off on a very big wave. And so a lot of important lessons in that. The main one I'll share is that when the energies are heightened, it's the most important to be grounded and centered. And that, as far as karma goes, the guides are springing this through now. Karma is not something that we are at the mercy of. Karma really can only happen to us when we're not grounded and centered. So as long as we're grounded and centered, we'll be safe and sheltered through any karmic storm. It's only when we lose our peace, that's when we become susceptible, because we're playing in the ego's playground as opposed to from the peaceful place. If we truly become the peaceful witnesses and observers that just trust that everything is happening for us, the God beings who know that our vibration is attracting to us everything we need, this is how we can transform karma. Now, things may still happen to you, but if you can see it as happening for you and let everything else go, you can still be in the peace with it. So I'll pause on karma, but moving on to the wind, which I mentioned before. So like I said, if I'm going to go surf, before I even check the waves, I look at the wind, because the wind, to me, is the most powerful force in nature. I had this realization the other day. Wind can change everything. It's more powerful than water or fire. Wind accentuates everything. So I guess it's like a amplifier of all things. I've also watched a lot of YouTube channels about hikers and things that happen in the woods and stuff that goes wrong. And it's funny because I watched this one video about this guy who was hiking, I think Mount Whitney or something. It's about Mount Washington. And it's not a very tall mountain, but it has these really extreme weather shifts, which is what makes it really dangerous. And the guy was saying that it's the wind. The wind speeds can go from like 10 miles an hour to like 200 miles an hour. And even if it's like a nice day and a 200 mile an hour wind comes through, or if it gets a little cold and then a 200 mile an hour wind comes through, that can be the end of that. And I know that from surfing as well. In the winter, if it's more than 10 miles an hour, I'm probably not going out, because the wind will just rip through your wetsuit. Even if you're warm, even though the water's 30 degrees, you're still kind of warm. The wind is just going to make it all worse. So if there's no wind, you could be totally fine. But if the wind comes, it can be unbearable. So something about the wind, keep your eye on the wind and just notice how you're feeling and what the wind's doing. And it's very powerful. It can also be a means to cleanse your field, the wind. So like I use the water a lot, but the wind can also do that. All right, the next thing they talked about in the channeling was the importance of embracing change. So these storms and energetic shifts are symbolic of the larger cycles we're going through. Fall is a time of reflecting on what we've learned this past year and preparing for the next cycle. Change is inevitable, and sometimes we resist it because there's comfort in the familiar, but in discomfort we grow. I've been struggling a lot with change this summer, and especially feeling a lack of grounding. I had some anxiety this summer. Things have shifted, and I'm working on processing that change. But it wasn't bad anxiety. It was just the knowing that things are changing and the anticipation of the unknown. Sometimes we grieve the life we thought we were going to have, especially when we step away from the path we were conditioned to follow, like getting good grades, going to college, and getting a job. The key is to honor who we are now rather than to cling to the life that we were sold. So as these storms come through, I think a lot of what's happening is this conditioning of the life that we've been sold. I know for my generation, we were sold, get a job, buy a house, have kids, and that's all fine and well, but the world isn't really supporting that. And thank God, because we're here to create new pathways. And not that you can't do that through that traditional life or through there's always going to be some tradition. We all have to live somewhere, and if you're inspired to have kids, that may be part of your path. But we're different now. We've been through a lot of energetic storms. We've been through a lot of spirals already. We've been setting a lot of intentions. And so we're just different. And so it's important to recognize what the conditioning is and what the new stuff is, and really honoring the steps that take us toward the life we want. The mark of unconditional love. So, true unconditional love involves no sacrifice. The universe might take something away, like a beachfront house during a storm, but it's likely a gift in disguise. The real sacrifice that can happen here on Earth only happens when we build lives that don't honor our true selves. We're meant to live authentically and be in alignment with who we are. Whether we're navigating an addiction or building a business, we must honor ourselves through it all. That's how we grow and evolve. And so, the 3D experience is really coming to an end. It's not over. There's still a lot unraveling. But those timelines are really coming to an end right now. And I feel that the time that we've spent in the 3D world, waking up each day and engaging in linear activities, it's just over. I'm not sure what that looks like in terms of years, time, years, decades, or sooner, but we're definitely moving towards something bigger. The higher soul is guiding us, and the 3D experience is no longer meant to be our focus. We're closing this chapter, and we're in the process of spiraling, both individually and collectively. So, navigating the spiral. We're constantly spiraling through life. We go through experiences, analyze them, and then upgrade ourselves. This is reflected in the storm cycle. The wind picks up, the waves get messy, but eventually the storm passes and we move through it. There's always a period between storms where we can integrate the lessons, but right now we're in a macro cycle of transition. If you feel unsteady, anxious, or like your thoughts are scattered, that's normal right now. It's part of the storm. Know that things are coming to the surface and energy is shifting, and the cycle is clearing things up. In the face of constant change, it's crucial to be anchored to who we truly are. If we don't know ourselves, we can't navigate the next level of our lives. The key to moving forward into higher dimensions like 5D is knowing that our bodies are temporary experiences. There's so much more beyond this physical life. By staying connected to our true selves, we can help make this experience more beautiful and meaningful for ourselves and others. So, if you're feeling this intense energy, know that it's part of this larger cycle. Be gentle with yourself. Use this time for healing and give yourself space if you're feeling lonely or stuck. If you need any support, I offer meditations and energy healing classes as well as one-on-one sessions. The link's in the description. Let me know how you're experiencing the energy. I'd love to hear in the comments below. What's been coming up for you this summer, this fall? Where have you been and where are you moving into? Sending love and support. Take care, and I'll be keeping you updated on how things are going over here. I love you guys so much. Thanks for being here with me on this channel. And I'll speak to you again at another time.